to VoTY broadcast. I'm your host, Benu Katasi Quinton. Over the last few days, you have all experienced the immense heat of this heat wave, of temperatures of up to 40.2 degrees. But the causes of this you may not know too much about. Today, we uncover these causes at the same time as clearing up the murky and highly politicized topic of climate change. Enjoy. Okay, so Oscar, as we've seen over the last few days, we've had a tremendous heat wave. Now, in the immediate term, what have been the causes of a heat wave of this kind?
Well, it's to do with weather fronts and the effects of depression. Well, no, that's storms. But it's to do with the hot air and the cold air around the country. I'm no meteorologist, as you can probably tell, but those are what will always cause changes in weather patterns. We've had lots of high pressure, I believe, which results in drier conditions, and it is responsible for the lack of rain over those few days.
Okay, and obviously this heat wave fits into the larger pattern of climate change we've seen. Simon, just tell us more about the longer term causes of this heat wave and its kind of role as part of climate change.
So the longer term causes are, of course, climate change with all of the polluting vehicles and the gap in the ozone layer. So more radiation from the sun is entering the atmosphere and causing the earth to warm up. And so this just fits into what we're expecting with global warming, with more higher temperatures and climate in different parts of the world just changing and becoming more abnormal.
And presumably, therefore, if we're seeing the global temperatures rising, will heat waves like this become more common?
I think it will, yes, because we've seen in Spain with lots of forest fires and extremely high temperatures of over 40, this heat is spreading as well with the winds blowing, and I think, yes, more heat waves are going to be happening.
And as you touched on there, we are seeing consequences with these heat waves, for example, fires, increased hospitalizations. And maybe, Oscar, can you touch on if these heat waves are going to become more common, how can we prepare ourselves?
Well, it's interesting that you mentioned that. Actually, we were actually in my local area. There was a fire due to this heat wave, and it has impacted on the people going to school. I don't think anyone was hurt, but one of my brothers had a difficult time getting to school. So obviously there's the impact on transport, which is also shown is a consequence of these higher temperatures, more extreme temperatures. And the problem with this is that to prepare for these takes a lot of resources and a lot of money. And if people are thinking that they are one-time occurrences or not common or not going to become more common, then there won't be this investment in this really high necessary investment, which means that it will be much harder to deal with the consequences of this.
I see. And as you mentioned, this heat wave's kind of drawn people's attention to the need to invest in these sort of things. But do you think it also serves as a wake-up call for the fact that we should seek to prevent climate change?
Well, of course, but people have been seeing this all over the planet already. Perhaps it might just be the first time that the UK has had a proper serious consequence, but it is already affecting everyone. And the fact that it's taken something like this to properly wake people up just shows that we should have been active sooner, because this is already affecting everyone all over the planet.
And Simon, just touch on, what could we be doing to limit climate change, especially in the context of the Tory leadership contest at the moment?
Well, obviously there's simple things like in introducing solar panels to your way of life and getting an electric car, which is expensive in the short term, but would be cheaper in the long term, considering if you use more renewable energy resources. And also, it would benefit the planet. So there's that obvious benefit. There's also, we can change our diets with more organic products, because that reduces the amount of animals being kept close together in a small space, and that will be more ethical and also reduce the amount of greenhouse gases such as methane being produced. And of course, going vegan is also another thing that we could all do to try and reduce the impact of climate change.
Yeah, and lots of people, the Conservative Party has put this kind of net carbon zero target in the future. What are some of the ways we can, make sure we achieve that by the deadline?
Well, of course, there's the vehicles, and I know that ITFL, for example, is trying to make all of their buses now carbon neutral. And it's not only the government's responsibility, I think it's a personal responsibility too, to try and minimize wastage of electricity, try and just eat a better diet, and also try and do more recycling, because I know batteries are wasted quite a lot and thrown into landfill, where they can be recycled at local shopping centres with their recycling collection units.
May I just say, however, Stonen, that although the personal impacts are incredibly important, it's actually, in my opinion at least, if you look at the grand scheme of things, it is the minority of incredibly wealthy owners of oil companies and other energy companies trying to please their shareholders, which is actually the main cause of all of the all of the problems with that energy. We could feasibly transfer the entire country to green through government mandates pretty quickly and also fairly cheaply, but it's just these companies which are restraining everything and holding back. And I think the idea that it has to be that everyone has to make that difference and that will work is possibly something which is allowing them to continue to get away with it. So maybe as a personal thing, the more important thing to do is to put pressure on these companies and on the government to try and limit the power these companies have. I don't know. It's just another opinion.
You raised a good point there. How some people are raising the argument that, setting these climate targets and things like this are, limiting the extent they can raise money and profits. So do you think there's a way we can make sure we can continue to grow the economy at a time where, the economy's faltering slightly, as well as setting these climate targets and making sure we achieve them?
All right, that's me.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think if it is in this modern day, it is no longer completely always more expensive to go for greener businesses, greener energy, than it is to go for polluting or climate change contributing businesses. It is in fact probably even cheaper in the long run, and thus better for the economy, to go for actions that will help deal with climate change. So the way to balance a greener economy and a growing economy, is to just link them together and find a way to incorporate greener and cheaper technologies to help deal with, to make everything less expensive. So there's the reliance on Russian oil, for example. So, part of this whole problem is to do with the prices of energy, and it's just, if we'd been green from the start, then it wouldn't have been as much of a problem.
Simon, do you want to add to that?
Yeah, I completely agree with Oscar. I think we could try and incorporate, like make businesses more green to try and boost the economy as well, because by doing that from the start, we would have been able to keep the economy thriving while also trying to convert it and make it safer for the environment. Of course, I think the government could also provide more funding to companies going more green, to keep them running well and also contributing to the economy as well, to try and help keep the economy in balance.
And just to come back to the heat wave, if we are suggesting that as part of climate change, these heat waves will become more common, how can, kind of families and individuals make sure that they can prepare for the effects? Maybe Sinan, do you want to touch on that?
Well, obviously drinking lots of water. I know that many people don't do that regularly enough. Me being also guilty in that case. But drinking lots of water, wearing more sun cream, because there's going to be more harmful sun rays entering our atmosphere. There was one thing about, not really personal, but maybe the government could try and improve things such as railway lines and infrastructure in their newer buildings, because I know that in more hotter countries, they have slightly different infrastructures to make them more suitable to the hotter climates. So they could implement those here now that we know that there's going to be more high temperatures from now on.
And just one final point from you both. What would you say as your kind of should be the main priority of the next Prime Minister?
Well, it still has to be I just think fixing problems. We have so many problems now in this, in this country and on this planet. There's the cost of living crisis, there's climate change, there's, refugee crises. It's all just like, if they just focused on dealing with that sort of thing, rather than trying to go onto a whole new different tangent or make a whole nother mess like Brexit, then it just feels like that would just be the way to go forward.
Sinan, would you like to add?
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I think something that they should focus on, I think, is definitely climate change, because, of course, these heat waves are a direct result of that. And we've seen that this can cause illnesses in older people. It has loads of unwanted effects on people, and that can also contribute to the other problems, such as the cost of living crisis and also the falling economy. So I think, first of all, I think they should focus on climate change, then move on to maybe a couple of the other problems. But there is nothing saying that they can't work on them simultaneously as well, though.
Okay, thank you both. I'll see you again next time.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully we have uncovered these mysteries for you and gone further to work out how this heat wave fits into the puzzle of climate change. Here at VoTY, we're committed to exploring in depth climate change. So visit our website, visit our further podcasts, which are going to be coming out all of the time, to further explore and deepen your insights into climate change. That's all for now. See you next week.